This is Dr. Kaelen Voss, Chief Astronomer at Olympus Observatory, Mars Colony Meridian. I'm recording this before the Council silences me. What I'm about to tell you will change everything you thought you knew about our history, about our home. 3 days ago, my team detected something impossible. We were mapping Earth's debris field, a routine task, cataloging the ghosts of our past dead satellites and atmospheric decay. Our deep space array, the Arcturus telescope, picked up an anomaly. It wasn't debris. It wasn't an echo from a long-dead satellite. It was a signal, structured, deliberate, and it was broadcasting on emergency frequencies that died 2 centuries ago when Earth did. The pattern was unmistakable old Morse code, ancient but universal, a language from the cradle of humanity. The message repeated every 40 seconds, a ghostly whisper across the void. Earth Station Alpha. I couldn't believe it. I ran diagnostics 20 times, searching for any glitch, any malfunction that could explain this. The signal was genuine, terrestrial origin. A ground-based transmission from what used to be the Rocky Mountains at an elevation of about 3,000 meters. Someone on Earth is alive, not just surviving, but thriving enough to operate complex radio equipment, organized enough to maintain a station for who knows how long. They've been down there for 200 years. 2 centuries while we, up here on Mars, believed our home planet was nothing more than a radioactive graveyard. My first reaction was pure elation. Humanity survived on Earth. We're not the last remnants floating in the red dust. We're not alone. But when I presented this to the Colonial Council, their response was disturbing. Director Iris Thorne, Administrator Dax Meridian, Chief Engineer Lyra King, they showed no surprise. No shock, no excitement, no relief, just a cold, calculated silence. Then Thorne looked at me, her eyes like ice, and said, "We need time to verify this isn't a hoax. Don't broadcast this information publicly." That phrase has haunted me for 3 days. Don't tell anyone. Not, "This is incredible news." Not, "We need to respond immediately." It was a command to conceal. It was as if they expected this, as if they already knew. I've spent every waking moment since then buried in the archives, desperately searching for an explanation. The official history is crystal clear, hammered into every colonist from birth. Earth died in 2147. The climate cascaded beyond recovery. Temperatures soared 20 degrees in just 15 years. The oceans boiled away into a toxic steam. Methane, released from the melting permafrost, triggered a runaway greenhouse effect that choked the planet. Agriculture collapsed. Fresh water supplies were contaminated beyond purification. The very air we breathed became a poison 80% carbon dioxide, 15% methane, with only trace amounts of oxygen. The story we all know is that 15 billion people perished in 30 years. By 2147, Earth was officially declared dead. The Mars colonial fleet, which had been established for 30 years prior, became humanity's only refuge. 4 massive ark ships transported the final survivors, 80,000 people in total. For 200 years, we have believed we were alone, the last children of a dead world. Except we weren't alone. Someone remained. Someone adapted. Someone survived what our leaders, our history books, our entire society told us was unsurvivable. And that raises a terrifying question that has been burning in my mind. Did they choose to stay? Or were they left behind intentionally? The Council has refused to authorize a response. They're evaluating, they claim, assessing the risks. 3 days of deliberation while 1,200 people on our home world beg for a simple acknowledgement. I can't wait any longer. I have access to the main communication array. I have the expertise. And tonight, I'm going to respond without authorization. Because if our positions were reversed, if we were the forgotten ones sending desperate signals into the silent darkness, I would pray that someone somewhere would have the courage to answer, even if the answer was simply, "We hear you. You exist. You matter." The laws on Mars colony are strict. Unauthorized transmissions carry a penalty of 10 years in a labor detention camp. But some truths transcend law. Knowing that humanity survived on Earth, that transcends everything. I'm at the communications facility now. It's 0200 hours, the dead of the Martian night. The staff is at a minimum. I've locked myself in the primary control room. On the screen in front of me, I'm composing the response. A message of hope, a message that defies 2 centuries of lies. It reads, Earth Station Alpha, this is Mars Colony Meridian. We receive your transmission. You are not forgotten. Humanity thrives here. We are 500,000 strong. Tell us, how did you survive? What is Earth's current status? We believed the planet was uninhabitable. Explain. I'm about to hit send. Whatever consequences follow, they're worth it. The truth is worth it. Humanity, all of humanity, deserves to know it survived. I'm hitting send now. The signal is away. The response came faster than I could have ever imagined. Just 18 minutes after I sent my message, the Arcturus array exploded with incoming data. It wasn't just an audio signal. It was a full-spectrum broadcast video, data packets, atmospheric readings, even biological surveys. Earth Station Alpha wasn't just replying. They were sending everything they had. The video feed flickered to life, showing a man around 50 years old. His face was weathered, his beard gray. He wore simple clothing made of fabric. I didn't recognize, definitely not the environmental suits we used. And he was crying. Real, actual tears streamed down his face. When he finally spoke, his voice cracked with emotion. Mars Colony. Oh God, Mars Colony, you're real. You're still out there. He took a ragged breath. We've been broadcasting for 60 years. 60 years of nothing but silence. We thought you'd forgotten us. We thought maybe Mars had failed too. We thought we were completely alone. His name was Commander Zeth Oren. He was the leader of Earth Station Alpha, a third-generation surface survivor, born on Earth long after the supposed collapse. Zeth explained their situation with a desperate urgency, as if he'd rehearsed this very moment for decades. He told me that after the Great Evacuation in 2147, about 15,000 people were left behind on Earth. It wasn't by choice. They were the ones who were too sick to travel, too poor to afford a ticket off-world, or simply too isolated to reach the evacuation points in time. They were promised that rescue ships would come back for them. They never did. For 50 agonizing years, they clung to life in bunkers, underground facilities, and sealed biodomes. The first few decades were brutal. 90% of them died from starvation, disease, radiation exposure, or the complete breakdown of society. But the ones who survived? They adapted. They moved to high-elevation areas where the thinning atmosphere still held some oxygen. They figured out how to grow crops in contaminated soil and filter deadly toxins from the water. They even started to evolve, breeding genetically to better tolerate the low oxygen levels. It was like 2 centuries of evolution crammed into just a few generations. Today, 12 stations like Zeth's exist across the globe. The data Zeth sent was staggering, completely rewriting what we thought we knew. The atmospheric readings showed Earth was healing itself. Carbon dioxide levels were dropping, methane was stabilizing, and oxygen was slowly, steadily increasing. The planet was recovering. It was a slow, glacial process, but it was happening. Average temperatures had already dropped 3 degrees in the last century. While the coastlines were still flooded, the interior highlands were becoming habitable again. Forests were regrowing. Rain patterns were stabilizing. Wildlife was returning, not the giant animals of the past, but insects, birds, and small mammals were reclaiming their home. Earth wasn't a dead world. It was a world in recovery. And these survivors had documented it all 200 years of environmental data we believed was impossible to obtain. Zeth's final words hit me like a physical blow. "We need help," he pleaded. "We're surviving, but just barely. Our medical supplies ran out long ago. Our technology is failing. Our genetic diversity is critically low. We've held on for this long, just hoping someone would remember us. Now you have. Please, please don't abandon us again." The transmission ended, leaving me in a deafening, stunned silence. My first instinct, my duty, was to take this straight to the council, to present all this irrefutable evidence. But something held me back. I replayed their initial reaction in my mind, their strange lack of surprise, their immediate, unwavering insistence on total silence. I had to understand why they reacted that way before I exposed myself any further. I kept digging, file after classified file, and each one was worse than the last. I found Mission Report CF21471003. It laid out the evacuation protocols in cold, hard detail. The colonial fleet had enough room for 120,000 people, maximum, if they rationed supplies. But they didn't. They chose to take only 80,000, ensuring everyone had comfortable provisions for the long journey. Their reasoning was chillingly pragmatic. A direct quote from the report said, "Maintaining colonist morale during the 20-month transit requires adequate supplies. Overcrowding would result in psychological breakdown, violence, and potential mutiny. It is better to arrive with a stable population than to risk the entire colony's failure." They chose comfort over lives. 40,000 more people could have been saved. Instead, they were left behind, deliberately. And it got worse. I pulled up another document, this one labeled Information Control Protocol. It was the blueprint for the Great Deception. All colonists were to be told that Earth was completely dead. No survivors. No possibility of rescue. This official story, the protocol stated, would prevent resource-draining rescue demands and eliminate survivor guilt that could compromise colony cohesion. The lies weren't a mistake or an accident of history. They were official policy. This was all planned. But the file that truly made me feel sick was dated 2197. That is 50 years after the evacuation. Earth Station Alpha had managed to cobble together a transmitter. They sent out distress signals, desperate calls into the void, and someone on Mars heard them. Communications Officer Jox Renner reported the signal directly to Director Myra Corvus. Her response was right there, documented in the log. Acknowledge the signal internally. Do not respond. Do not inform the public. The existence of Earth survivors would destabilize the colony if it became known. Mars cannot spare the resources for a rescue mission. Maintain the extinction narrative. They knew. 50 years after leaving Earth, they knew people had survived. And they chose silence. They chose to let those survivors on Earth believe we'd all vanished into space, never to be heard from again. They chose to let us, here on Mars, believe that everyone we left behind had died, This wasn't a tragedy. This was systematic, cold-blooded abandonment. Everything I had ever been taught, everything our society was built on, was a lie. Our founding heroes weren't heroes at all. They were cowards who orchestrated mass murder through neglect. Our entire foundation was built on a crime. I had to tell someone, but who could I trust? The council was clearly complicit. The senior leadership were all descendants of the original deceivers, their families benefiting from this lie for generations. If I just went public, they'd arrest me in an instant. They would seize the evidence, bury it deeper than ever, and continue the cover-up as if nothing had happened. I couldn't do this alone. I needed allies, people who valued the truth more than they valued comfortable lies. My mind immediately went to Dr. Nora Vesper, my colleague in the xenobiology department. She was a fourth-generation Martian like me, but she'd always questioned the official history. She even proudly called herself a revisionist. If anyone would be willing to listen, to believe, it would be her. I found her in the Biodome labs, hunched over a microscope, studying bacterial samples from the northern ice caps. I laid it all out for her, everything I had discovered. When I finished, she didn't look shocked or surprised. She looked relieved. "I knew it," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I've always known something was wrong with the evacuation narrative. The numbers never made any sense. Earth's population was 18 billion. The fleet capacity was a tiny fraction of that. So, where did everyone go? The official story is that 15 billion died in the collapse, but the timeline is just too fast. A global civilizational collapse of that scale takes time. It doesn't happen in just 30 years. Something else happened. It turned out Nora had been doing her own secret research. She explained that our founding population, if it was as small as they claimed, should show significant bottleneck effects, that is, limited genetic variation, because it came from such a small group of founders. But our diversity was much higher than expected. Her conclusion was startling. The official number of 80,000 evacuees was a lie. Working together in the dim light of the lab, we started to formulate a plan. We couldn't just leak the information through normal channels. Any controlled release would be immediately suppressed and spun. We needed something undeniable, something public that couldn't be silenced. The colony's main information network, the Nexus, had incredibly strong safeguards against unauthorized broadcasts. But Nora knew someone who might be able to bypass them. A man named Tyr Blackwell. He was a brilliant data engineer with strong anarchist sympathies. He'd been censored by the council before for questioning their authority. He had no love for the establishment. He would help us. It was time to burn the lies to the ground. To find Tyr Blackwell, we had to descend into the guts of Colony Meridian, the lower levels where the air was thick with the smell of ozone and recycled chemicals. This was the industrial sector, a sprawling maze of machinery and grimy corridors where official oversight was a joke. We found him just where we were told he'd be, inside a cavernous recycling facility, a silhouette moving amidst the hulking, groaning machines. When we approached him and laid out the whole crazy story, the hidden archives, the lies, Sathorin's voice from Earth, he didn't even seem surprised. A grim, knowing smile spread across his face. "You know," he said, wiping grease from his hands with a rag, "I've been waiting for years for someone from the top levels to finally figure out our leaders are liars. So, what do you need from me? Our request was simple, yet monumentally difficult. We needed to broadcast the truth to every single person in the colony, and we needed to do it in a way that the administration could have just shut down with the flip of a switch. Tyr nodded, his mind already working. He explained that the colony's entire communication network was centralized. The council could kill any transmission, delete any data, silence any voice they wanted. It was their ultimate tool of control. But there was a backdoor, a system built for the apocalypse, designed to work even if the central command was a smoldering crater. The emergency alert system. It was different, hardwired, autonomous. It wasn't designed for entertainment or news. It was built to scream a warning to every device on Mars simultaneously. Every personal datapad, every public view screen in the plazas, every residential unit's comm panel. Once you activated it, it was like a force of nature. You couldn't stop it without physically finding and destroying dozens of transmitters scattered across the entire colony. It was the system's one true vulnerability. "It'll work," Tyr said, his eyes glinting in the dim light of the facility. "But you have to understand what this means. They'll know it was sabotage, an inside job. They will hunt whoever triggers it. You'll be arrested, if you're lucky. More likely, you'll be executed for sedition. I'd already made peace with that possibility. Some truths are worth any price, even your own life." We spent the next 12 hours huddled in Tyr's cramped workshop, a space cluttered with discarded circuits and scavenged tech. We were a strange trio, me the historian, Nora the geneticist, and Tyr, the forgotten tech wizard from the underbelly of Mars. Together, we assembled our weapon. Not a bomb, but a package of pure, undeniable truth. It contained everything. My evidence from the archives, the doctored files, the original mission logs. Nora's genetic research, proving the viability of Earth's survivors. And the centerpiece, the emotional core of our broadcast, Zeth Orin's desperate, hopeful transmission from Earth. We stitched it all together into a single, seamless presentation, a narrative that would dismantle 2 centuries of lies in a matter of minutes. Our plan was to hijack the colony's programming and force-feed them the truth. We would show them that Earth survived, that Mars had abandoned them, that our leaders had knowingly and cruelly lied to every single person born on this red rock. And then, after dropping that bombshell, we would play Zeth's plea for help. We wouldn't tell people what to think. We would let the 500,000 citizens of Mars Colony Meridian decide for themselves whether we should rescue our forgotten family or continue this monstrous cruelty. Tyr, with his intimate knowledge of the colony's rhythms, scheduled the broadcast for 1800 hours. Peak time, the moment when most colonists would be home from their shifts, when viewership was at its absolute maximum. We had 3 hours until the world changed forever. We didn't spend that time celebrating or second-guessing. We spent it preparing for the consequences. I recorded a personal statement, a confession, and a justification, explaining my actions for whatever passed for a trial I might face. Nora, ever the pragmatist, wrote letters to her family, words she hoped they would one day understand. Tyr just laughed, a deep, rumbling sound that seemed to shake the very dust from his workshop. "Don't you worry about me," he said. "I've been waiting my whole life for a cause worth dying for. This definitely qualifies." At 17:45 hours, 15 minutes to showtime, we slipped out of the workshop and moved into the shadows. Tyr led us to his hidden access point, a maintenance tunnel that ran directly beneath the main communication hub. It was dark, damp, and smelled of stale, processed air. He found the junction box he was looking for and pried it open. Inside was a tangle of fiber optic cables. He wasn't using a wireless connection that could be traced or a digital terminal that could leave a fingerprint. He was connecting directly to the emergency system's hardline, a physical connection, untraceable, unstoppable. At 1800 hours on the dot, he completed the connection. He gave me a sharp nod. It was done. All across Colony Meridian, on every screen, big and small, the regular evening broadcasts vanished. In their place, my face appeared. I looked directly into the camera lens we had set up, trying to project calm, trying to project authority. Citizens of Mars Colony Meridian, I began, my voice steady. My name is Dr. Kaelen Voss. What I am about to tell you is a truth that has been deliberately hidden from us for 200 years. Earth is not dead. Humanity survived. There are 8,000 people living on the surface of our home world right now. They've been trying to contact us for 60 years. And for 60 years, our leaders have been ignoring them. They abandoned them. I have the proof. And then the proof played. The documents filled the screens. The altered records, the hidden signals. The data streamed out, irrefutable and damning. And then came Zeth's face, her eyes filled with tears and hope, her voice echoing across 500,000 Martian homes. The reaction was immediate. We were monitoring the colony's network chatter on tears-scavenged equipment. First came confusion, then waves of disbelief. People arguing, questioning. But as the evidence mounted, as Zeth's story unfolded, the disbelief curdled into anger. And then rage. A collective roar of betrayal that you could almost feel through the floor of the tunnel. People poured out of their residential blocks and into the streets. We saw on the security feeds that thousands were converging on the administration plaza, their voices rising in a single, furious demand for answers. The council tried to fight back. They issued counter-statements, denials, calling our broadcast a malicious hoax. But it was too late. The evidence was too clear. The lies were too obvious. Nobody believed them. Within minutes, the security forces were mobilized. We watched them storm the communication hub, searching for the source of the broadcast, searching for us. But we were already gone. Tyr led us through a labyrinth of maintenance tunnels. He knew like the back of his hand. We were ghosts in the machine, moving unseen, while the world we had known burned above us. We finally emerged in the quiet solitude of the agricultural domes, hiding among the towering stalks of genetically modified corn and the whirring machinery of the hydroponics labs. Through the colony's public address system, we could hear the official announcements. Dr. Kaelen Voss, Dr. Nora Vesper, and Tyr Blackwell are wanted for unauthorized broadcasting and acts of sedition. Citizens are ordered to report any sightings immediately. We were criminals, fugitives, but we were the criminals who had set the truth free. As we hid there, in the humid air of the hydroponics section, listening to the distant shouts of the crowds and the sirens of security patrols, Nora asked the question that had been hanging in the air, the question I had been desperately avoiding. Kaelen, what happens now? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. Even if people believe us, even if they demand we launch rescue missions, can we actually do it? Can we help Earth? We barely have enough resources for ourselves. Our water is rationed, our food is synthesized, our energy is conserved. Can we really afford to rescue 8,000 people? Can we bring them here? Can we even send supplies there? I looked at her, then at Tyr, and I didn't have an answer. All I had was the weight of what we had just done, and the terrifying, uncertain future we had unleashed. I didn't know if we could save them, but I knew we had to try. Because the alternative, the thought of abandoning them all over again, was simply unthinkable. The entire colony just exploded. Complete chaos. It happened within hours of our broadcast. Administration Plaza, the heart of our government, was completely swarmed with protesters. We're talking thousands of people, all demanding answers. Director Iris Thorne tried to give a speech, but you couldn't even hear her over the noise. The crowd just shouted her down, throwing whatever they could find. All you could hear were the chants. Earth lives. They lied. No more abandonment. It was a roar that shook the foundations of our city. Security forces tried to step in to create a perimeter, but they were hopelessly outnumbered. Many of them had family in that crowd, friends. They were sympathetic to the cause. By midnight, it was a full-blown siege. A council building was surrounded, barricaded from the inside. They were trapped. And where were we? Still in our hiding spot, glued to the screens, watching it all unfold through Tyr's illegal network taps. The amazing thing was how quickly the protesters organized. It wasn't just a mob anymore. A leader emerged from the chaos, a man named Commander Soren Vale. I knew him, but not well. He was a logistics officer from resource management, a guy who understood supply chains, how to get things from point A to point B. He somehow got control of the plaza's public address system, and his voice boomed across the square with this incredible authority. He told everyone, "Citizens, I get it. I understand your anger. I feel it too. But violence isn't going to help the survivors on Earth. We need organized action. We need to force the Council to authorize a rescue mission." Then he gave them a new target. He said, "I'm forming a task force. We need engineers, biologists, pilots, anyone with skills that can help. Meet at the shipyard. We are going to plan a rescue mission, with or without the Council's approval." And just like that, everything changed. Soren's pragmatism, his focus, it just resonated with people. The anger was still there, but now it had a purpose. The crowd didn't disperse, but it shifted. Hundreds of people started moving towards the shipyards. Others began raiding supply depots, gathering materials, whatever they thought would be useful. Our colony, which had been this pillar of stability for 2 centuries, was having its first ever civil uprising. And it was organized, focused, and shockingly effective. From our little hideout, Nora just watched in awe. She whispered, "This is unprecedented. Martian society has been stable for generations. There have been no protests, no dissent. The colonial authority was absolute." She was right. Our one single broadcast had shattered 200 years of order. It broke the most fundamental thing holding our society together: trust. Trust in our leaders, trust in our history, trust in everything we'd ever been told. And if they lied about Earth, what else did they lie about? That was the question hanging in the air. Maybe this awakening, as painful as it was exactly what the colony needed. By dawn, the situation had escalated beyond anyone's imagination. Soren's task force had swelled to over 2,000 people. They had seized control of 3 massive cargo vessels at the shipyard. These weren't military ships, just standard freighters, but they were spaceworthy. Engineers were already working around the clock, refitting them for the long journey to Earth. They were installing extra life support, stripping out non-essentials to maximize cargo space for medical supplies, food production equipment, and advanced technology. The plan was as ambitious as it was insane. Send a fleet to Earth, bring back anyone who wanted to come, and establish a permanent link between our worlds. Of course, the Council tried to fight back. Director Thorne issued a direct order to what was left of her security forces: retake the shipyard, arrest the ringleaders. This unauthorized operation threatens the stability of the entire colony. But it was too late. The order was ignored. In fact, Captain Lyra Frost, the head of our entire colonial defense force, publicly resigned her post and walked right over to the shipyard to join Soren's group. And she didn't come alone. She brought 50 of her best armed officers with her. That was it. The Council had lost. They were powerless, barricaded in their offices, completely irrelevant. But then, as Tyr continued to monitor their communications, he found something truly disturbing. He intercepted encrypted messages between Director Thorne and an off-colony recipient. The other party was identified only as the Titan Station Authority. Titan Station. humanity's other colony, out on Saturn's moon. We'd had almost no contact with them for decades, but apparently, our leaders had been talking to them in secret. Thorne's message was brief, and it was alarming. Situation critical. The public knows about the Earth survivors. They're preparing an unauthorized rescue mission. We cannot contain them. We request intervention. Thorne was asking for help, not from her own people, but from an outside power. Tyr worked frantically and managed to decrypt the response from Titan, and the words chilled me to the bone. It read, "Maintain order by any means necessary. The Earth survivors must not be allowed to integrate with colonial populations. The risk of genetic contamination is too high. If the rescue cannot be prevented, ensure any returning individuals are quarantined permanently. We will send an enforcement team if needed." Genetic contamination. That phrase echoed in my head. They didn't see the people on Earth as our long-lost brothers and sisters. They didn't see them as human beings in need of rescue. They saw them as threats, contaminants, a biological risk to be managed. The dehumanization was absolute. This wasn't just about hiding the truth anymore. This was about something far, far darker. Our leaders and the leaders on Titan had decided that the survivors of Earth were not worth saving. They were something to be feared, and if necessary, to be contained. By any means necessary. The fight for Earth was just beginning, but we had just discovered we had a whole new enemy. The colony just exploded. Within hours of our broadcast, Administration Plaza was swamped with protesters. I'm talking thousands of people, all demanding answers. Director Ares Thorne tried to give a speech, but you couldn't even hear over the roar of the crowd. They shouted her down, through whatever they could find. The chants were deafening. Earth lives. They lied. No more abandonment. It was chaos. Security forces tried to form a line, but they were completely outnumbered. And honestly, you could see it on their faces. Many of them agreed with the protesters. Their loyalty was cracking. By midnight, the council building was surrounded, barricaded. It was a full-blown siege. All the while, we were still in hiding, watching the whole thing unfold through Tyr's illegal network taps. It was incredible how fast the protesters organized themselves. A leader emerged from the Chaos Commander Soren Vale. I sort of knew him. He was a logistics officer from resource management. A guy who understood supply chains, how to get things from point A to point B. He somehow got control of the plaza's public address system, and his voice just cut through the noise. He spoke with this incredible authority. He said, "Citizens, I get it. I'm just as angry as you are. But violence won't help the survivors on Earth. We need a plan. We need organized action. We need to force the Council to authorize a rescue operation." Then he made the call. "I'm forming a task force. We need engineers, biologists, pilots, anyone with useful skills. Meet me at the shipyard. We are planning a rescue mission, with or without the Council's approval." His words just resonated. It was like he gave everyone a target for their anger. The crowd didn't disperse, but their fury turned into purpose. Hundreds started moving towards the shipyards. Others began raiding supply depots, gathering materials, anything that could be useful. We were witnessing the colony's first civil uprising in 2 centuries. And it wasn't just a riot. It was organized, focused, and shockingly effective. From our hiding spot, Nora was just staring at the feeds, completely stunned. "This is unprecedented," she said. "Martian society has been stable for generations. No protests, no dissent. Colonial authority was absolute. And one broadcast just shattered it all." She was right. People were realizing they'd been lied to, not just about Earth, but maybe about everything. If the leaders could lie about something that huge, what else were they hiding? The trust was broken, completely and utterly. Maybe it was a good thing. Maybe this was the awakening the colony needed. By dawn, The situation had escalated beyond anyone's imagination. Soren's task force had ballooned to over 2,000 people. They'd taken control of 3 massive cargo vessels at the shipyard. These weren't military ships, just standard supply haulers, but they were spaceworthy. Engineers were already working on them, frantically refitting them for the long journey to Earth, installing extra life support, and trying to maximize every inch of cargo space. The plan was breathtakingly ambitious. Send ships to Earth loaded with medical supplies, advanced technology, and food production equipment. Bring back anyone who wanted to come. Establish a permanent line of communication. End the isolation once and for all. Of course, the Council tried to fight back. Director Thorne issued a direct order to the security forces. Retake the shipyard. Arrest the ringleaders. This unauthorized operation threatens the stability of the entire colony. But it was too late. The order was ignored. In a move that sent shockwaves through the government, Captain Lyra Frost, the head of Colonial Defense, publicly resigned her post and walked right over to join Soren's group. And she didn't come alone. She brought 50 armed officers with her. That was the moment. The Council had lost all control. They were just prisoners in their own building, barricaded and powerless, watching their authority evaporate. They had become irrelevant. Meanwhile, Tyr was still digging through communications, and he found something deeply disturbing. He'd cracked a set of encrypted messages between Director Thorne and someone off colony. The recipient was only identified as Titan Station Authority. Titan Station, humanity's other off-world colony out on Saturn's moon. We'd had almost no contact with them for decades. But apparently, our council was in touch with them, and Thorne was asking for their help. The message was short and chilling. Situation critical. Public knows about Earth survivors. Preparing unauthorized rescue. Cannot contain. Request intervention. The response from Titan Station came back almost immediately. Tyr decrypted it, and the words made my blood run cold. It read, "Maintain order by any means necessary. Earth survivors must not integrate with colonial populations. Genetic contamination risk too high. If rescue cannot be prevented, ensure returning individuals are quarantined permanently. We'll send enforcement team if needed." Genetic contamination. That one phrase, it was chilling. They didn't see the people on Earth as survivors to be rescued. They saw them as a disease, as contaminants. The dehumanization was absolute. This wasn't just about hiding the truth anymore. This was something much, much darker. The so-called leaders of humanity were terrified of their own past, and they were willing to do anything to keep it buried. Now, it wasn't just our council we were up against. It was a conspiracy that spanned the entire solar system, and they were about to bring the hammer down. Commander Soren Vale became the de facto leader of Mars Colony. It wasn't by appointment, but through sheer necessity and competence. He organized the rescue mission with military precision. 3 ships, the Endeavor, the Phoenix, and the Horizon. Each one was carefully refitted to withstand Earth's atmosphere, loaded with supplies, and crewed by volunteers. 600 people in total: engineers, medics, pilots, and scientists. I was aboard the Endeavor. Nora and Tyr were with me. We had earned our place by exposing the truth. The journey was going to be long. 18 months to get there. 18 months to come back. 3 years, minimum. We packed everything we thought they'd need. Food synthesizers, advanced medical equipment, water purifiers, solar panels, and construction materials. We brought the tools to rebuild a world, but we also brought gifts. Entertainment files, digital books, music, art. The things that make life worth living, not just surviving. Before we left, Soren gave a speech. It was simple, and it hit hard. He said, "We're not saviors. We're apologists. We're going to Earth to say, we're sorry. We abandoned you. We lied. We dehumanized you. We were wrong, and we're here to make it right." That message echoed in our minds as we left Mars behind. The first few weeks in deep space were an adjustment. Most of the crew had never traveled beyond Mars orbit. The psychological challenge was immense, just infinite black emptiness in every direction. But our morale was high. We were doing something truly meaningful, something just. We were correcting a historical wrong. Many of us started recording daily logs, documenting the mission for posterity. I spent my time poring over the transmissions from Earth Station Alpha. Zeph had sent us everything comprehensive data about all 12 stations. Their combined population was 8,247 individuals. The ages ranged from newborns to an 89-year-old. They had functioning societies. They had governments, schools, families. They'd managed to preserve technology where they could. They were cultivating crops in radiation-shielded greenhouses and filtering toxins from their water sources. They even maintained historical records, knowing that future generations would need to understand their context, their history. They weren't primitive survivors scrabbling in the dirt. They were resilient, organized communities. And they had done it all by themselves for 200 years. Then, midway through our journey, we received an unexpected transmission. It was from Earth. It was Zeth Orin again. But his voice was different this time. Cautious, worried. "Mars vessels, this is Earth Station Alpha. We've detected your approach. We're grateful, but I need to warn you." He paused. "Earth isn't as stable as our initial data suggested. The atmospheric recovery we reported is real, but it's localized. The highland regions are habitable, but the lowlands, they remain toxic, and there are other complications. Biological complications." The bridge of the Endeavor fell silent. Zeth continued. "The survivors didn't just adapt naturally. We couldn't wait. We used genetic modification. We edited our own DNA to tolerate low oxygen, high radiation, and extreme temperatures. We've altered ourselves ... significantly. Our biology isn't standard human anymore. I'm telling you this because when you arrive, you'll notice physical differences. Please, don't be alarmed. We are still human. Just modified human. And I'm not sure how your leadership will react to that." The revelation sent shockwaves through the crew. Genetic modification was a deeply controversial topic back on Mars. We had edited crops and bacteria, of course, but human genetic engineering was strictly controlled, practically taboo. The old Preservation Directorate had been obsessed with genetic purity, and that ideology still lingered. And now, we were learning that the Earth survivors hadn't just dabbled in it. They had extensively modified themselves. They had changed their fundamental biology to survive. Were they still human? The question ignited a firestorm of debate. Philosophically, scientifically, ethically. It was all anyone could talk about. Some argued that the modifications didn't matter. Consciousness, culture, and choice are what define humanity, not a sequence of genes. Others were deeply worried. They raised concerns about biological compatibility. Could modified humans and baseline humans even interbreed? If so, would these modified genes spread through the Mars population? Would our own people, conditioned to fear genetic impurity, ever accept them? The tension was thick. Finally, Nora, as our chief biologist, addressed the entire crew. Her voice was calm and steady, cutting through the anxiety. Genetic modification was their only option for survival, she explained. They didn't have the luxury of time for natural evolution. They had to adapt immediately or die. They chose life. That choice is fundamentally human. The specific genes don't matter. Their humanity is not in question. Her words brought a sense of clarity, a reminder of our purpose. We weren't just on a supply run. We were on a mission to reconnect with our lost family, no matter what form they had taken to survive. 18 long months after leaving Mars, a jewel appeared on our view screens. Earth, and it was breathtaking. Swirling clouds danced across its surface, and the ocean sparkled with shades of blue and green, a vibrant defiance against the higher toxin levels we knew they held. We could see the continents, clear and distinct beneath the thin veil of atmosphere. This wasn't the dead world from our history vids, not the barren, radioactive hellscape described in every single piece of Martian propaganda. This was a living planet. It was healing, growing, reclaiming itself from the ashes of our past. The entire crew gathered at the observation deck, a silent, reverent crowd. We just watched, transfixed. Tears streamed down many faces. This was our homeworld, the cradle of our species, the place where humanity took its first steps, dreamed its first dreams, and we had abandoned it. We let it suffer, wrote it off as a lost cause, a ghost of a planet. Seeing it now, so alive, the weight of our collective guilt was crushing. Commander Soren's voice cut through the silence, calm but firm. He told us, "We are about to meet people who survived because of a strength we can't even begin to imagine. They will be different from us, physically, culturally, psychologically. Treat them with respect. Treat them as our equals. Remember, we are guests here, seeking forgiveness, not saviors granting mercy." Our entry into the atmosphere was a tense, careful dance. Earth's conditions were challenging. Radiation levels were higher than our simulations predicted. The air currents were wild and unpredictable, and debris from old collapsed structures still floated in the upper atmosphere like metallic ghosts. But our ships were built for the unforgiving nature of Mars, and that harsh training served us well. We descended toward the jagged peaks of the Rocky Mountains, the origin point of the signal from Earth Station Alpha. Soon, the settlement came into view. It was a collection of structures cleverly built right into the mountainside, camouflaged so perfectly against the rock that they were almost invisible. They were designed for concealment, a city hiding in plain sight. As we got closer, we saw them. People, first dozens, then hundreds, emerging from the mountain. They stood outside, heads tilted back, watching our descent. This was it, first contact. We landed smoothly in a clearing the station had prepared for us. The airlock hissed open. Commander Soren stepped out first, followed by Nora, Tyr, and then me. The second my boots touched the ground-real Earth soil, not the red, dusty regolith of Mars, an overwhelming wave of emotion hit me. This was home. Humanity's home. I'd never set foot here before, yet some deep genetic memory stirred within me. It recognized the pull of gravity that felt just right, the scent of the air that smelled of life, of rain and dirt and growing things. A figure approached us slowly. This must be Zeth Oren. Soren was right. The physical differences were immediately apparent. Zeth's skin had a grayish tint, likely an adaptation to a different light spectrum. His chest was broader, built to house larger lungs for the thinner, low-oxygen air. His eyes were large, his pupils wider to capture more light. But when he smiled, it was a purely, recognizably human smile. He extended his hand. Soren took it. They shook, and in that simple, profound gesture, it felt like humanity was finally reuniting with itself, bridging a gap of centuries and worlds. Zeth's voice was rough, but warm. "Welcome to Earth," he said, his voice cracking slightly. "Welcome home. We've waited so long for this." Behind him, others were crying openly, their faces a mixture of shock, relief, and joy. "We thought you'd never come," he continued, his own eyes welling up. "We thought we'd die here, forgotten. Thank you for remembering. Thank you for coming back." Soren's reply was filled with a sincerity that resonated across the clearing. "We're sorry it took so long. We're sorry for everything. But we're here now. We're here to help. And we're here to listen. Tell us what you need." Over the next few days, a new picture of Earth began to form. We established communications with all 12 Earth stations scattered across the globe. The total population was actually higher than their initial report suggested. 9,143 individuals. They'd been in the middle of a census when we arrived, and had just made contact with several isolated families living in the most remote, untamed parts of the planet. Each of the stations was unique, varying in size from about 200 people to over 1,500, and each one had adapted to their environment in incredible ways. Station Alpha, here in the Rockies, had become the keepers of technology, preserving the knowledge of the old world. Station Beta, located in the high plateaus of what used to be Tibet, had become masters of agriculture, coaxing life from the wounded soil. And Station Gamma, nestled in the Andes Mountains, had pushed the boundaries of genetic modification, creating life that could thrive in this new world. These weren't just survivors clinging to life. They were innovators, pioneers. They had developed brilliant solutions to problems we on Mars had never even conceived of. They had radiation-resistant crops that could grow under a hostile sun. They had water purification systems that worked without any power. They had built new social structures that fostered cooperation under the most extreme and stressful conditions imaginable. They had evolved. They'd created new cultures, new traditions, new ways of being human that were both alien and deeply familiar. During our third week on Earth, while surveying the facilities at Station Alpha, Nora made a discovery that sent a shockwave through everything we thought we knew. She was in their genetic modification labs. To us, they looked primitive, almost archaic compared to what we had on Mars, but they were undeniably functional. Sifting through digital archives, she found their modification protocols' detailed records, tracking which genes had been edited and for what purpose. It was a geneticist's treasure trove, a map of their survival. But then, she noticed a pattern. One specific modification kept appearing over and over in 90% of Earth's survivors, a particular sequence on chromosome 7. Nora, ever the perfectionist, immediately ran a full analysis, comparing it to the baseline human genome from our databases. This wasn't a random mutation, not a product of natural selection accelerated by the harsh environment. It was far too precise, too deliberate. The signature was unmistakable. It was engineered. And then the real shock hit. The sequence matched something in her own database, a sequence from the Mars colonists. In fact, it was a genetic marker present in 70% of the Martian population. The exact same modification appearing independently on two separate worlds, separated by millions of kilometers of empty space. The odds of that happening, naturally, were zero. It was statistically impossible. This wasn't a coincidence. It was a conspiracy written in our very DNA. Someone had intentionally engineered this sequence into both of our populations. But who? And when? And the biggest question of all, why? Nora immediately brought her findings to Zethorn. His reaction wasn't what I expected. There was no shock, no disbelief. Instead, a heavy sense of resignation settled over him. "You found it," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "I was wondering how long it would take you to notice." He led us away from the main hub of the station, down into a series of secure, subterranean levels. The air grew cooler, the silence more profound. "What I'm about to show you," he began, his voice echoing off the metallic walls, "was discovered by our own geneticists about 30 years ago. We've kept it a closely guarded secret. We weren't sure how to interpret it. We didn't know if Mars knew, or if you were even involved. We couldn't tell if this was all part of some grand, intentional design, or just a catastrophic accident. We arrived at a heavy blast door, which hissed open to reveal a vast, sterile laboratory. The room was filled with rows upon rows of cryogenic storage units, hundreds of them humming with a low, chilling energy. Each one contained samples. Zeth walked over to a control panel and opened one of the units. A cloud of frigid vapor billowed out, and inside, illuminated by a soft blue light, were thousands of cryovials. Frozen embryos. Each vial was meticulously labeled with dates, genetic profiles, and identification codes. The dates were all from the year 2147, the year of the evacuation. The codes. Nora recognized them immediately. They matched the classification systems of the Preservation Directorate. These were left behind, Zeth explained, his voice heavy with the weight of the revelation. Hidden away in bunkers like this all across the planet. So far, we found 6 of these facilities. Combined, they contain over 100,000 frozen embryos. For a moment, I couldn't process it. Why would they evacuate an entire population, only to leave so many potential lives behind in the ruins? It made no sense. But then Nora, her mind racing, made the terrifying connection. This was their backup plan, she breathed, her eyes wide. The Directorate didn't just select people for the evacuation. They were planning to repopulate Earth all along. After the planet had time to recover, they would use these embryos to start over. The horrifying scale of the plan began to unfold in my mind. They would create a new, genetically optimized population on a cleansed Earth. Meanwhile, they'd maintain their colonies on Mars and Titan. 3 separate branches of humanity, all seeded from the same source, all controlled by the Directorate, all genetically managed and curated like a prize-winning garden. But that didn't explain Zeth and his people. It didn't explain the survivors. Zeth continued, confirming our darkest fears. Our ancestors weren't supposed to make it. The Directorate's models predicted that everyone left behind would be gone within a few decades. These embryos were designed to be thawed centuries later, once the planet was habitable again. They would be grown in automated artificial wombs, raised by robotic systems. They'd create a new humanity that never knew the old Earth, that never questioned its origins, a population that simply existed as the Directorate designed it. It was a plan of chilling, monstrous ambition, but it had failed. The automated systems did activate, Zeth said, a hint of pride in his voice. About 80 years after the evacuation. But by then, our ancestors had not only survived, they had thrived. They found these facilities. They took the embryos. They used them to bolster their own dwindling numbers, to increase their genetic diversity. He looked from me to Nora, a wry smile on his face. That's why some of our genetic modifications match yours. We used the Directorate's own genetic templates. We just modified them further, adapting them for Earth's new conditions. We created a hybrid genetics, combining the resilience of the survivors with the optimization of the Directorate's designs. The revelation was staggering. The people of Earth weren't just the descendants of those left behind. They had hijacked the Directorate's eugenics program and repurposed it for their own survival. They had taken the tools designed for absolute control and used them to forge their own liberation. It was brilliant, a testament to human ingenuity in the face of annihilation. It also explained the physical differences we'd seen, the unique blend of ruggedness and subtle enhancement. They were a new kind of human part survivor, part engineered. Nora, always focused on the practicalities, asked the crucial question. How many of the embryos are left? Zeth consulted a datapad. Approximately 60,000. We've used about 40,000 over the past 2 centuries. The remainder are kept in secure storage, a genetic failsafe in case our population's diversity ever drops to a critical level. 60,000. 60,000 potential human lives frozen in time. Each one a life meticulously planned by the Directorate, now a sacred trust held by the survivors of Earth, a responsibility they had never asked for. I looked at Soren, who had been silent this whole time, absorbing the enormity of it all. He looked back at me, and I knew we were thinking the exact same thing. These embryos didn't just belong to the Directorate's memory or to Earth's future. They belonged to all of humanity. Mars, Earth, Titan, this was our shared heritage. We have to tell Mars, I said, my voice firm. We have to tell everyone. This changes the entire situation. This changes everything. The secrets buried on Earth were not just about the past. They were the key to our shared future. And we were about to unlock it. We were ready. Everything was prepared for a system-wide broadcast. A message of hope, of truth, directed to Mars and even to the heart of the Directorate on Titan. We had compiled the full story. The survival of humanity on Earth, the precious embryos representing a new beginning, and the dark secret of the Preservation Directorate's backup plan, their twisted eugenics program, designed to seize control. We even detailed how the Earth survivors had begun integrating the new genetics, a testament to their resilience and our combined future. We were just moments from hitting send, from revealing everything to the solar system, when Tyr's voice cut through the comms, laced with alarm. He had detected something. 3 ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel and entering Earth's orbit. They weren't from Mars. They weren't part of our rescue fleet. They were from Titan, and they were big. Military-grade vessels, bristling with weapon emplacements. Tyr, ever the master of signals, quickly broke into their communications. Encrypted military channels using Preservation Directorate protocols. These weren't diplomats. They were enforcement teams. Their orders were chillingly clear. Contain the Earth situation. Commander Soren Vale didn't hesitate for a second. His voice rang out, ordering all personnel to defensive positions. Our 3 ships, a mix of science and transport vessels, were no match for dedicated military craft. But we weren't just going to roll over. Soren broadcast on an open channel, his voice firm and unwavering. Titan vessels, this is Commander Soren Vale of the Mars Rescue Fleet. State your intentions. You are entering sovereign Earth space without authorization. The response that came back was devoid of any warmth, any negotiation. It was the voice of cold, bureaucratic power. Commander Vale, this is Directorate Enforcement. We have authorization from Preservation Directorate Command. The Earth situation requires containment. All non-essential personnel are to evacuate the surface immediately. Earth survivors will be quarantined. The embryo facilities will be secured. Non-compliance will be met with force. The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. They were going to imprison the Earth survivors, people who had fought for 2 centuries to stay alive. They were going to seize the embryos, the future we had so carefully planned. They were going to reassert Directorate control, undoing everything we had fought for, everything we had exposed. They were simply going to enforce their tyrannical will, regardless of the truth. Soren's refusal was immediate and absolute. Negative enforcement. Mars Colony has officially rejected Directorate authority. The survivors of Earth are under our protection. Leave this system immediately. The Titan ships didn't bother responding with words. Their answer came in a flash of blinding light and energy. Railgun fire ripped through the void. They weren't targeting our ships directly, not yet. They were warning shots, brutal and terrifyingly precise, streaking past our hulls. The message couldn't have been clearer. Comply or be destroyed. Soren's next order was for evacuation. Medical staff, scientists, civilians, anyone not trained for combat was ordered back to the ships. He needed to get the non-essential personnel to safety. That left about 200 of us on the surface. 200 soldiers, engineers, and pilots. A skeleton crew against professional military forces. We were hopelessly outmatched, outnumbered, and outgunned. But the Earth survivors weren't defenseless. They weren't victims waiting to be contained. Zeth Oren, their leader, immediately began mobilizing his people. His voice, weathered by a lifetime of struggle, echoed through their settlement. We have defended this planet for 2 centuries. We are not giving it up to them now. Suddenly, Station Alpha transformed. Panels slid away to reveal hidden weapon emplacements. They had makeshift gear, improvised over generations, but ruthlessly functional. Electromagnetic pulse devices designed to disable electronics. Crude but powerful railgun emplacements mounted on towers. Rocket launchers cobbled together from scavenged pre-collapse missiles. It was nothing compared to Titan's advanced military technology, but it would be enough to make any ground assault bloody and costly. The standoff began. 4 tense hours where we all held our breath. The Titan ships remained in high orbit, their commanders likely running calculations, weighing the potential casualties of a ground assault against the political fallout. We used that precious time to fortify our positions. Zeth's people were masters of their world. They knew Earth's scarred terrain like the back of their hands. They guided us, positioning weapons in concealed locations, setting up traps in narrow canyons, and creating deadly kill zones in the ruins of the old world. If Titan wanted to set foot on Earth, they would bleed for every inch. Finally, the Titan commander issued an ultimatum, his voice grating with impatience. Final warning. Surrender the Earth survivors and the embryo facilities within 1 hour, or we will commence bombardment. We have authorization to sterilize all surface installations if necessary. The choice is yours. There it was. The Directorate's true face, stripped of all pretense. They would rather destroy everything, kill every last person, than lose control of their grand genetic experiment. They would rather sterilize a world teeming with life than admit they had failed, that humanity had survived without them. It was pure, unadulterated eugenics, with no shred of humanity left. Soren's response was our final act of defiance. You'll have to kill us all. Earth isn't yours to take. It never was. The people here fought for their own survival, while you played at being genetic gods in your ivory towers. They have earned their world. Come and take it if you dare. The hour expired. On our tactical displays, we saw the Titan ships power up their main weapons. Energy signatures spiked across the board. We braced for the bombardment, for the end. We had made our stand. And then, something impossible happened. Another ship dropped from orbit, a new contact appearing on our screens. It was smaller, sleeker, and faster than the military vessels. It wasn't a warship. It boldly positioned itself right between the Titan fleet and the Earth's surface, a lone shield against the coming storm. A voice broadcast across all frequencies, a voice I recognized instantly. It was Captain Lyra Frost, the former head of Mars Security, who had been exiled for helping us. Titan Enforcement, this is Captain Frost, commanding the independent vessel Defiance. I am transmitting this entire event live to Mars, to Titan, and to every relay station in the system. The entire solar system is watching you right now. If you fire on Earth, everyone will see. Everyone will know what you are. The Directorate's legitimacy is already destroyed. If you kill these people, you will face revolution on every world you control. The choice is yours. She had followed us. She hadn't abandoned the cause. She had brought ships, witnesses, and the one thing the Directorate feared more than anything: accountability. From the surface, we could practically feel the hesitation from the Titan commander. The energy signatures from his ship's weapons fluctuated, then began to power down. Slowly, reluctantly, he broadcast one final venomous message. This isn't over. The Directorate will address this situation through the proper channels. Then, the 3 warships turned and retreated to a higher orbit. They didn't leave the system, but they didn't attack. The immediate threat was gone. We had won, for now. The standoff over Preservation Directorate authority completely shifted the dynamics. Titan's aggression didn't just fail. It backfired spectacularly. It managed to unify Mars and Earth against the Directorate, something we hadn't thought possible just weeks before. Even the moderate colonists on Mars, the ones who were hesitant about our rescue mission, were now horrified by Titan's methods. They saw the Directorate for what it was, a brutal, authoritarian regime. Captain Frost's broadcast was a major turning point. Over 600,000 people across Mars and Titan saw it. The footage of our peaceful intentions, contrasted with the Directorate's military threats, created a massive wave of public support for our cause. Opinion turned overwhelmingly against any military action. Soon, protests erupted on Titan itself, with citizens demanding the dissolution of the Directorate. Their leadership, once seemingly unbreakable, was now crumbling from within. But even with this political victory, we were facing a mountain of practical problems. The Earth survivors needed immediate and long-term help. We're talking basic infrastructure, medical care, advanced technology, and vital resources. Our fleet had brought supplies, but only enough for about 18 months. It was enough to stabilize 12 stations, to stop the immediate bleeding, but it wasn't a sustainable, long-term solution for rebuilding an entire planet's civilization. We needed something permanent, something that would last for generations. That's when Soren came forward with a truly radical idea: formal integration. He wasn't talking about assimilation, where Earth's culture would be erased. No, this was integration, a true partnership. He proposed that the Earth stations join a brand new political entity, the United Human Colonies. The idea was revolutionary. Earth, Mars, and Titan would have equal representation. Resources would be shared. Governance would be shared. It would be a shared future, built together. Critically, there would be no genetic discrimination, no eugenic policies dictating who was worthy and who wasn't, just pure cooperation. The proposal was ambitious, and it required consensus from all three populations. On Earth, it was a lifeline. The station leaders, like Zeth, and the general population enthusiastically approved. For them, it was not only a necessity for survival, but also a profound validation of their humanity after centuries of being forgotten. On Mars, the vote was much closer. It passed, but with only 62% in favor. Decades of Directorate propaganda about genetic contamination had taken root, and old fears died hard, even with our scientific explanations. On Titan, the first vote failed. 53% opposed integration. The Directorate still held significant influence there, and their ideology of genetic purity was deeply ingrained in the older generations. But the story didn't end there. The protests continued, fueled by the younger Titan colonists. These were the generations born after the initial evacuation, the ones who grew up hearing stories of Earth, but without the same level of prejudice as their parents. They rejected the old hatreds. Within 2 months, their tireless activism forced a second referendum. And this time, it passed, 58% in favor. The United Human Colonies was officially born. The first order of business was to dismantle the entire infrastructure of the Preservation Directorate. We revoked every eugenic policy on the books. We began the process of bringing the leaders who perpetuated the abandonment of Earth to justice. Director Thorne, along with her counterpart on Titan, Director Kaelen Voss, were put on public trial. They were charged with crimes against humanity, and the evidence was overwhelming. Both were convicted and sentenced to life in labor detention. Other members of their leadership received lighter sentences, depending on their level of complicity. It was a clear message. The era of genetic purity and authoritarian rule was over. Justice, though long delayed, had finally arrived. Our second order of business was immediate resource sharing. Mars began sending regular supply shipments to Earth-advanced technology, food synthesizers, medical equipment, and construction materials. Everything the survivors needed to rebuild. In return, Earth offered something Mars desperately needed: genetic diversity. We had the embryos, 60,000 potential humans, carrying a vast and varied genetic heritage. For generations, the limited founder population on Mars had been leading to a genetic bottleneck, causing an increase in hereditary diseases. Earth's frozen embryos were the solution. But this created its own controversy. Some Earth survivors, understandably, wanted to thaw all the embryos themselves. They wanted to repopulate their own world, to maximize their numbers. Others, however, recognized the stark reality. They simply didn't have the resources to care for 60,000 additional people. Nora, with her unique perspective as a Martian who had embraced Earth's cause, proposed a compromise. A brilliant and fair one. We would share the embryos. 20,000 would be allocated to Mars, 20,000 to Titan, and 20,000 would remain on Earth. They would be distributed equally. This way, each population would grow and diversify. Humanity would spread across 3 worlds, but remain genetically connected, preventing us from splintering into separate subspecies. It was a vision for a unified human future. After intense and emotional debates across all 3 worlds, everyone agreed. The embryos would be divided. Each world made a solemn commitment to thaw and raise them over the next 50 years, creating a new generation of humans who wouldn't belong to just one world, but to all of them. What followed was a cultural exchange more remarkable than anything we could have imagined. The Earth survivors began teaching the Martian colonists the incredible survival techniques they had developed over 2 centuries of hardship. They were masters of water conservation, waste recycling, and a kind of psychological resilience that was almost superhuman. In turn, the Martian colonists taught the Earth survivors about advanced manufacturing, computational science, and the secrets of fusion power. They learned from each other, bridging the technological and cultural gap with each passing day. But they shared something even deeper than knowledge. They shared their stories. The Earth survivors had 2 centuries of oral history we had never heard. Epics of survival against impossible odds. Tales of heroes who had saved entire communities. Myths and legends that had developed in total isolation. Mars had its own stories, its own myths, born from the challenges of taming a new world. When these 2 traditions came together, they didn't clash. They synthesized. A new, richer human culture began to form. The children growing up in this new era, the first generation of the United Human Colonies, would inherit both traditions. They wouldn't see themselves as Martian, or Terran, or Titanian. They would simply see themselves as human. That was the ultimate goal. That was the hope that fueled us all. But we knew it wouldn't be easy. This healing would take generations. Six months after the integration of Earth, Mars, and Titan began, just as things were starting to feel hopeful, something new happened. We'd finally established permanent, open communication channels between our worlds. Cultural exchanges were happening daily. Trade negotiations were underway. It felt like we were finally knitting the scattered pieces of humanity back together. Then, one morning, Tyr intercepted a signal. It wasn't from Earth. It wasn't from Mars or Titan. It came from deep space, far beyond our solar system. The signal was faint, but it was structured. It was artificial. It meant someone else was out there, broadcasting, trying to reach us. The discovery sent shockwaves through all 3 populations. We weren't just the separate factions of humanity we had once been. We might not be alone in the universe at all. Experts from every colony immediately began analyzing the signal. It was complex, layered with mathematics. Prime numbers, basic physics equations, universal constants. It was a classic first contact protocol. Someone intelligent was broadcasting a simple, powerful message. We exist. We know you exist. Let's talk. The origin was traced to about 4 light years away in the Proxima Centauri region, humanity's closest stellar neighbor. Had we sent ships there? I didn't think so. It had been discussed for centuries, but as far as I knew, no mission had ever launched. Our colonies were all safely within our own solar system. This meant whoever was signaling, they weren't human, unless another, more staggering possibility emerged. Nora, digging through historical archives, found something. During the chaotic evacuation of Earth in 2147, not all ships went to Mars or Titan. 2 massive vessels, the Odyssey and the Pioneer, had been outfitted for interstellar travel. They were sleeper ships, each carrying 10,000 colonists. Their destination, Proxima Centauri. They had launched before the evacuation even ended, before Earth was officially abandoned. They were supposed to check in once they arrived, but we'd never received confirmation. For 200 years, everyone had assumed they'd failed, lost in transit, destroyed by some unknown disaster. But what if they had succeeded? What if 20,000 humans had been living at Proxima Centauri this whole time? What if, in our own struggle for survival, we had abandoned them too? The timing of the signal supported this terrifying theory. A 4 light-year distance meant the transmission was sent 4 years ago. It would have taken the sleeper ships roughly 200 years to arrive, establish a colony, and develop the technology for interstellar transmission. The math worked. The people broadcasting were almost certainly human. Another forgotten colony, waiting in the dark. Soren immediately organized a response team. But this wasn't like sending a message to Mars. Even traveling at the speed of light, our reply would take 4 years to reach them. Their answer would take another 4. We were looking at a minimum of 8 years just to have a single back-and-forth conversation. The alternative was to send ships. The new fusion pulse drives, a product of our recent Mars-Earth collaboration, could get a vessel to Proxima Centauri in 40 years. A single generation. As soon as the call went out, volunteers started signing up. Zeth Oren's son, Kaelen, a name I was honored he chose, was one of the first. He was 23, genetically modified for Earth's gravity, and burning with a desire to see other worlds. He was joined by thousands of other young people from all 3 colonies. They saw this not as a risk, but as the future of humanity, expanding beyond our solar system, finding our lost brothers and sisters, and finally reuniting our entire species. A message was crafted, a collective effort from all 3 worlds. It was broadcast from Earth, Mars, and Titan simultaneously, aimed at that faint, hopeful signal. It said, "Proxima Signal, this is the United Human Colonies. The populations of Mars, Earth, and Titan are united. We receive your transmission. Are you descendants of the human race? Please confirm. We are preparing ships for contact. Help is coming. You are not forgotten." The message was sent. Now, all we could do was wait 4 years for a reply. But we didn't just sit on our hands. Preparation began immediately. 4 new ships were designed specifically for the journey: the Reunion, the Discovery, the Hope, and the Unity. Each would carry 500 people, a total expedition force of 2,000. The crews would be a mix from all 3 populations: Martians, Earthers, and Titanians, all working side by side on a 40-year journey. They would arrive in the year 2387. Most of the crew would spend the trip in cryosleep, waking up for rotating shifts to manage the ships. A return voyage would take another 40 years, and most volunteers accepted they would never see home again. They would settle at Proxima Centauri, joining whatever human society they found there, and expand humanity's presence in the galaxy. My own role in this great new chapter became educational. I had uncovered the truth about Earth. I had exposed the Directorate and helped start the process of integration. Now, It was time for the younger generation to carry the torch. People like Kaelen, filled with a hope and drive that our generation had almost lost. By the time those ships arrived, I would be well into my old age. By the time they could possibly return, I'd likely be gone, but that was okay. I had done my part. I had helped find one forgotten colony, and in doing so, I had helped ensure humanity would never abandon itself again. We would remember who we are, all of us, no matter how far we roam. 5 years after the unification, the dream of a united humanity began to show its cracks. The practical challenges of integration were immense, far more complex than anyone had anticipated. Cohabiting wasn't as simple as sharing a space. Earth survivors and Mars colonists found that their very bodies were at odds with each other. The genetic modifications that had allowed humans to survive on Earth created physiological needs fundamentally different from those of the Mars colonists. They required different atmospheric pressures, different oxygen levels, and different temperature ranges to be comfortable, even to survive. Creating shared living spaces became an engineering and economic nightmare. Every new facility, every station, had to be designed with segregated sections. You'd walk down a corridor and see signs for Earth Zone, Mars Zone, and Titan Zone. This physical separation, meant to ensure everyone's well-being, had an unintended consequence. It reinforced social separation. People naturally clustered with their own kind, retreating into the comfort of familiarity. Despite the political handshake of integration, cultural integration was lagging far behind. We poured resources into educational programs, hoping to bridge the widening gap. Exchange programs were set up, sending children from Mars to experience life on Earth stations, and Earth children to see the red cities of Mars. The kids, as they often do, adapted far better than the adults. They saw differences not as barriers, but as points of curiosity. They made friends across modification lines, their innocent minds unburdened by prejudice. But for the adults, it was a different story. 2 centuries of separate evolution had forged incompatible worldviews. Earth survivors, having clawed their way back from the brink, valued resilience, collectivism, and a survival-first mentality. Every decision was weighed against the potential for disaster. Mars colonists, born into a world of technological marvels and frontier spirit, championed innovation, individualism, and a progress-first ethos. They saw the Earth survivors' caution as stagnation. And then there were the Titan colonists, products of a rigid, highly structured society. They prized order, hierarchy, and stability above all else, viewing the chaotic debates between Earth and Mars with a kind of detached disapproval. Conflicts erupted constantly over everything and nothing. Economic integration was just as thorny. Mars possessed advanced manufacturing capabilities, but was starved for raw resources. Earth, with its slowly recovering ecosystems, had resources but primitive technology. Titan had incredibly efficient systems, but a social structure so rigid it stifled growth. Trying to balance trade was like juggling knives. Earth demanded technology transfers to rebuild their infrastructure. Mars wanted access to Earth's recovering gene pool to increase their own genetic diversity. Titan, in its typical pragmatic fashion, wanted labor forces for its massive projects. No one wanted to feel exploited, but everyone felt they were getting the short end of the stick. Trade agreements were debated, negotiated, revised, and disputed on a near-constant cycle. The complaints were endless. I'd hear Mars colonists grumbling, "We're giving far too much to Earth. They survived just fine without us for 2 centuries. Let them figure it out on their own." The retort from Earth survivors was often bitter and filled with historical grievance. Mars owes us reparations. They abandoned our ancestors to die. They should be paying for that crime. Meanwhile, Titan representatives would calmly argue that both sides were being unreasonable, demanding Titan's resources without offering fair reciprocation. The arguments echoed in every council chamber and public forum. My work was at the heart of this storm. I'm Nora, and I established the Integration Commission to mediate these disputes. It was exhausting, soul-crushing work. Every single week brought a new fire to put out. Conflicts over resource allocation, debates on the ethics of genetic modification, even disagreements on how to raise children. Then came the issue of interpopulation marriage. Could a modified human and an unmodified one even have a family? Was it safe? Were their children viable? Was there a risk of modification spreading uncontrollably through the gene pool? Medical studies provided some answers, but they weren't simple. We learned that cross-population fertility was possible, but it was complicated. An unmodified human from Mars and an Earth-modified survivor could conceive, but the miscarriage rate was a staggering 40%, 4 times higher than within their own populations. And when the children did survive, they inherited a random assortment of their parents' modifications. Some were beneficial, like enhanced immune systems. Some were harmful, leading to chronic health issues. Others were just neutral. Genetic counseling quickly became mandatory for any couple from different populations wanting to have a child. This led to another, even more complex issue. People started wanting modifications for themselves. Mars colonists who frequently traveled to Earth's high-pressure stations requested the Earth modification package to tolerate the conditions. Earth survivors, seeing the advanced medical care available to those with Mars standard genetics, wanted to upgrade their own biology. These requests threw open a Pandora's box of ethical debates. Should genetic modification be available on demand? Should people be allowed to fundamentally change their biology just because they wanted to? And who gets to decide which modifications are acceptable and which are not? The Integration Commission scrambled to establish guidelines. We decided that therapeutic modifications, those meant to cure disease or repair injury, would be allowed. But enhancement modifications, those intended to augment natural abilities, would require a rigorous ethical review. Military-grade modifications were banned outright, and we enshrined that the right to reproduce couldn't be restricted based on one's genetic makeup. But creating guidelines is one thing. Enforcing them is another. It was nearly impossible. A black market for genetic modification clinics exploded overnight. Unlicensed practitioners, operating in the shadows of our shiny new cities, offered any modification you could dream of for the right price. Some of their work was successful, but much of it was catastrophic. We saw people dying from botched procedures. Others were left with severe, lifelong complications. My old friend Tyr was tasked with tracking these illegal clinics and shutting them down. But the demand was just too high, far exceeding his team's capacity to enforce the law. People wanted to change, to adapt, to feel like they belonged in their new, integrated world. To them, our restrictions felt oppressive. I'll never forget the day Tyr came to my office, his face etched with frustration and bitterness. "We're becoming the directorate, Nora," he said, his voice low. "Controlling people's genetics. Deciding who can modify their own body and why. We fought a war to end this. And now we're the ones implementing it." He had a point. Our commission wasn't eugenic. We weren't trying to breed some kind of superior human. But we were, undeniably, controlling genetic autonomy. We were limiting people's choices, creating a regulatory framework that felt restrictive and paternalistic. I argued back, trying to justify our actions, maybe to him, maybe just to myself. Without regulation, we'd have chaos here. People dying from dangerous modifications. New genetic diseases spreading through the entire human population. Children being born with incompatible traits, condemned to a life of suffering. We need some control. We have to. The debate continued, and it still continues today. Neither of us was entirely wrong, and neither of us was entirely right. The real challenge was finding the balance. Humanity was walking a tightrope, suspended between the chasm of dangerous, unregulated freedom and the abyss of oppressive control. We had to navigate the treacherous path between letting people modify themselves freely and protecting them from the potential harm of those very choices. There was no perfect answer. There was only compromise. Only constant, painful adjustment based on the outcomes, learning from our successes and our failures as we stumbled forward into this brave, new, and very complicated world. 38 years. That's how long it had been since we first heard their voices crackling across the void. 38 years since we learned we weren't alone, that a lost branch of humanity had survived. And now, they were here. The Proxima colony ships had arrived in our solar system. I was still alive to see it, just barely. At 101 years old, I was a relic of a bygone era. The medical breakthroughs from the Earth-Mars collaboration had stretched my lifespan far beyond what I ever imagined. But time still takes its toll. I was frail, confined to an assisted living facility on Mars. My window to the universe, now just a high-definition screen. But what a view it was. I watched, along with billions of others, as the three massive vessels entered orbit around Jupiter, their forms sleek and alien compared to our own blocky, functional designs. They were the Reunion Echo, the Starbridge, and the Kinship. Each one was a world unto itself, carrying 8,000 souls. 24,000 Proximans, descendants of the colony ship Horizon, had come home. They had launched 40 years ago, crossing the interstellar gulf at near-light speeds, using a propulsion system they developed entirely on their own. 2 centuries of isolated innovation, driven by the harsh realities of a new world, had pushed them far ahead of us technologically. We had spent that time fighting amongst ourselves, recovering from our own self-inflicted wounds. They had spent it building, striving, and reaching for the stars. Their arrival ignited a firestorm of excitement across the solar system. There were parades on the surface of Mars, fireworks in Earth's orbital habitats, and jubilant broadcasts that ran for days. The prodigal sons and daughters had returned. But beneath the celebrations, a current of anxiety ran deep. 24,000 new people. That's a city. They needed resources, housing, food. They needed a place in a solar system that was already straining at the seams. Where could they possibly go? Mars was already overpopulated. Our resources stretched thin. Earth was still in a delicate stage of recovery, its orbital stations packed to capacity. The people of Titan, ever insular and self-reliant, had made it clear they weren't interested in taking in newcomers. The joyful reunion was rapidly turning into a logistical nightmare. It was then that Commander Amara West, now a venerable elder herself at 87, addressed the system. Her face, lined with the wisdom of a long and storied life, filled our screens. Her voice was steady, calm, reassuring. "We come not as invaders or refugees," she said, her gaze seeming to meet every eye watching. "We come as returning family. We understand your concerns, and we do not expect you to accommodate us entirely at your own expense. We are here to contribute. We have brought with us technology, resources, and knowledge born from 2 centuries of struggle and innovation. We will help build new habitats, establish new settlements. We are not a burden. We are an addition. Together, we are stronger." Her words were a balm on the system's frayed nerves, and the Proximans were true to their word. They brought with them technologies that were nothing short of miraculous to us. Fusion drives far superior to our own, capable of making interplanetary travel a matter of days, not weeks. Genetic modification techniques, so refined they could cure diseases we considered terminal. Construction methods that were faster, more efficient, and more resilient than anything we had developed. But they brought more than just technology. They brought a culture rich and vibrant that had evolved in parallel to our own. Their art, their music, their literature, it was all so fascinatingly different, a reflection of their unique history. Their languages had diverged from standard English, acquiring new cadences and vocabularies. Their social structures were more communal, built on principles of deep cooperation. They even had a philosophy that emphasized a form of collective consciousness, not the forced nightmare of the Directorate's merge, but a voluntary, harmonious cooperation for the common good. They were different, yet so recognizably human, compatible, potentially the key to a brighter future. Still, the question remained, where to settle them? Mars couldn't take them. Earth's stations were full. Titan had said no. It was the Proxima representatives themselves who proposed the boldest, most audacious solution. They suggested we establish an entirely new settlement. On Venus, the very name was a byword for inhospitable. A toxic, superheated hellscape with a crushing atmosphere and clouds of sulfuric acid. But the Proximans saw potential where we saw only death. They had the technology for large-scale atmospheric processing. Pragmatists, seeing the urgent need for expansion, supported it wholeheartedly. The genetic purists, a fringe element that had sadly survived the fall of the Directorate, resurfaced to voice their opposition. They saw the Proximans, with their inherited genetic modifications, as impure, and feared that giving them a world to colonize would spread their altered genes further. In contrast, integration advocates championed the idea, arguing that diversity was our greatest strength and that the Proximan modifications were irrelevant. Finally, after 2 years of heated arguments, a consensus was reached. The Venus project would go forward. The Proxima colonists would lead the effort, but it would be a joint project, a testament to a newly unified humanity. Mars would provide raw materials. Earth, its expertise in biology and ecosystems. Titan, its unparalleled logistical and organizational frameworks. And Proxima would provide the advanced technology and the bulk of the labor. Venus wouldn't belong to any single faction. It would be a shared world. Construction began almost immediately. It was an awe-inspiring sight. The Proximans led the charge, but thousands of volunteers from Earth, Mars, and even a few from Titan flocked to join them. Venus was every bit as challenging as its reputation suggested. The extreme heat, the crushing pressure, the corrosive acid clouds, it was the most hostile environment humanity had ever tried to tame. But slowly, miraculously, progress was made. Massive floating platforms were assembled and anchored high in the atmosphere, above the worst of the heat and pressure. Legions of atmospheric processors were deployed, great silver machines that drank in the toxic air and began the long, slow process of transformation. The planet's temperature began to drop, degree by painstaking degree. It would take a century, maybe more, to fully terraform the surface. But in the meantime, the platforms became thriving habitats, cities in the clouds. They named the settlement Unity. A fitting name, I thought. It represented everything humanity could achieve when we worked together. Despite our differences, despite the terrible mistakes of our past, despite the immense challenges that lay ahead, we could cooperate. We could build. We could grow. Before I died, I visited Unity. I was 104 years old. The journey was dangerous for someone of my age, a frail sack of bones and memories. I watched as the massive processing machines silently did their work, patiently healing a wounded world. In that moment, a profound sense of satisfaction washed over me. We had come so far. And for the first time in a very long life, I felt that was enough. The great integration was underway. The Proxima colonists, our long-lost cousins, were finally rejoining the human family. Or so we thought. Every colonist went through rigorous evaluation. We scanned their medical records, analyzed their genetic code, and studied their culture. On the surface, everything looked normal. Their genetic modifications were different from ours, sure, but similar in scope. They had adapted to their world, Proxima Centauri b, just as we had adapted to the harsh realities of a post-collapse Earth. Nothing seemed alarming. But Dr. Nora Vesper, a brilliant mind even at 78, noticed something. A tiny sequence buried deep within the Proxima genetic code. It was an anomaly. It didn't match any known human modification. It wasn't from the old directorate templates, and it definitely wasn't a natural mutation. It was something else entirely. She took her findings to the Proxima medical staff, expecting a scientific discussion. Instead, she was met with evasive glances and uncomfortable silence. Finally, one of their senior doctors, a man named Harlan Cross, broke. He looked at her, the weight of generations on his shoulders, and confessed. "We weren't entirely honest," he said. "We didn't just adapt to Proxima b on our own. We found something there, something that helped us, something that changed us." The story that unfolded was breathtaking. On Proxima Centauri b, the first colonists had discovered life. Not intelligent life, but microbial life. Ancient, incredibly resilient, and symbiotic. These microbes could bond with human cells. They could enhance our natural abilities, accelerate healing, and bolster the immune system beyond anything we could engineer. The initial contact was accidental, and it was brutal. Many of the early colonists died as their bodies rejected the alien organisms, but some survived. And those who did gained remarkable gifts. They could tolerate intense radiation, heal from grievous wounds in hours, and their lifespans and cognitive functions were significantly extended. The survivors passed this new symbiosis on to their children. Within just 3 generations, 90% of the Proxima population carried these alien microbes. They had become a new kind of human, a hybrid organism, part human, part alien. Biologically, they were chimeras. They spoke our languages, shared our history, and valued our ethics. The revelation sent a shockwave through the solar system. We had found alien life, and it had already merged with a branch of humanity. A furious debate erupted. Were the Proximans still human? They had incorporated alien DNA into their very genome, creating, for all intents and purposes, a new species. Genetic purists screamed for quarantine. They're not human anymore. They cried. They're contaminated. They could infect us all, changing humanity forever. But integration advocates pushed back. Genetics don't define who we are, they argued. Their consciousness, their culture, their choices, those are human. They are our family, regardless of this symbiosis. The medical community was just as divided. The microbes seemed beneficial, even harmless to their hosts. But what if they spread? Could they infect other humans? Could they mutate into something hostile? The fear was palpable. The microbes were incredibly sensitive to their environment. They could only survive in the specific atmospheric conditions and temperature range of Proxima b. We didn't ask for this symbiosis. It was a matter of survival, but we have embraced it. It is part of who we are now. If that makes us unacceptable to you, then we will remain separate. But we would prefer to be part of the larger human family, despite our differences. Her words resonated, but the response was mixed. Some colonies welcomed the Proximans with open arms, fascinated by their unique biology and shared humanity. Others kept their distance, unable to look past the alien label. Integration became law, but social acceptance was a different battle. Proximans faced discrimination. Businesses refused to serve them. Housing applications were mysteriously lost. Even their children, born in the solar system without the symbionts, faced an identity crisis. Were they Proximan? Were they solar human? This new hybrid identity left them caught between two worlds. Humanity was fragmenting again. But this time, it wasn't because of distance or abandonment. It was because of fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of the alien, and our deep primal inability to accept radical difference. The question was no longer about whether the Proximans were human. The question was whether we, the rest of humanity, were humane enough to accept them. I was 107 years old when the expeditionary ships finally reached Proxima Centauri b 40 years. A 40-year journey through the dark, cold expanse between stars. Most of the crew had spent the voyage in cryo-sleep, their bodies preserved, their minds dreaming of a new world. But now they had arrived, and it was a success. All 4 ships, all 2,000 crew members, alive, healthy. They were ready for first contact with the civilization on Proxima. The transmission, their first message home, had to travel across the same vast distance they had just crossed. It took 4 long years for it to reach the solar system. By the time it did, I was 111. Still alive, though just barely. My body was failing, but my mind was sharp enough to watch. The screen flickered to life, and I saw him. Kaelen Voss, Zeth's son, now a man of 63. He'd aged during the journey, spending years awake on rotation shifts, keeping watch while others slept. He stood on the surface of Proxima b, his face visible through the helmet of his environmental suit, and he looked directly at the camera, at us, 4 light years away. "Solar system," he began, his voice clear and steady. "We've arrived. Proxima Colony Prime welcomed us. They're incredible. They've built these cities that just blend into the native ecosystem, like they grew right out of the ground. They've achieved a harmony with this alien environment that we could only dream of. And yes, they're hybrid. They carry the symbionts. But they're human. Beautifully, undeniably human." He paused, taking in the alien landscape around him. "We're beginning our integration here. We're learning their technology, sharing our culture. We're building a combined society. This is the future. This is humanity spreading across the stars, adapting to new worlds, becoming more than we ever were, but never, ever losing our core." Kaelen's next words hit me with the force of a physical blow. "I'm staying," he said, his gaze unwavering. "All 2,000 of us are staying. We're not returning to the solar system. We're making Proxima our home. We'll raise our children here, build our lives here, and expand humanity from here. But we will maintain communication. We're not leaving you behind. We're not forgetting you. We're extending humanity's reach, creating a second anchor point in the galaxy." His voice filled with a profound sense of purpose. If something happens to the solar system, Proxima survives. If something happens to Proxima, the solar system survives. We are insurance against extinction. We are the living proof that humanity can thrive anywhere. We are hope. The message was deeply emotional. Many of the colonists had recorded personal messages for the families they left behind 4 decades ago. Goodbyes, love letters, promises to remember. For many recipients back home, the messages arrived too late. 40 years is a long time. but their descendants received them. Grandchildren hearing the voices of grandparents who had left on a one-way trip before they were even born. It was beautiful. It was painful, but it was beautiful. Humanity was now spread across 2 star systems. 6 colonies in total: Mars, Earth, Titan, Venus Unity, Proxima Prime, and now new settlements on the moons of Proxima b. Our total population was around 900,000. Not the billions that crowded Earth before the collapse, but we were growing. We were diversifying. We were thriving. Watching Kaelen, seeing the legacy of integration, the culmination of my life's work, I knew I had one last thing to do. I recorded my own message to send back across the void. It would take 4 years to reach Proxima. I would be long dead before they ever received it. But Kaelen would hear it. Eventually, I cleared my throat, my voice thin and reedy. Kaelen, this is Dr. Voss. You were named after me. Your father, he told you stories. I hope I managed to live up to them. You've done something I never could. You've taken humanity further than I ever imagined possible. You've proven that we can adapt, that we can integrate, that we can accept radical differences and find a common strength. A tear traced a path down my wrinkled cheek. You're my legacy, Kaelen. All of you are. Every human born after integration is living proof that we corrected our course. Proof that we chose connection over division. Proof that we finally remembered our humanity. Thank you for carrying that forward. Thank you for becoming better than we were. The future is yours. Make it beautiful. I hit send. The message was on its way, a final whisper into the cosmos. I would never see a response, never know for certain if they received it, but I had to trust that they would. Trust that the chain would continue. Humanity, reaching across the stars to touch itself, to remain connected, to never be alone again, no matter the distance. My work was done. I died at the age of 112. It was a peaceful passing, surrounded by the people who had defined my life. My friends, my colleagues, the family I had chosen. Nora was there, of course. Tyr, ever the stalwart presence. Commander Soren, whose journey had so mirrored my own. We sat together, their faces etched with the lines of long, meaningful lives, and we reminisced. We spoke of the early days, of that faint, impossible signal that started it all. We remembered the thrill and the terror of exposing the Directorate, the monumental effort of rescuing Earth from its self-imposed isolation. We laughed about the clumsy, hopeful beginnings of integration, trying to stitch together a fractured species. They told me I had changed history, that I'd altered humanity's entire course. I listened, but I didn't feel the weight of their words. It never felt like I had done something extraordinary. It felt like I had simply done what was necessary. What anyone in my position should have done. I remembered. I refused to let the past be erased. And when faced with a choice, I chose connection over division every single time. It was as simple and as complicated as that. Before I drifted away, I had one last request. I asked them to record everything, absolutely everything that had happened. Every conversation, every discovery, every struggle, every triumph we had learned and built together. I wanted it all archived, permanently. And most importantly, it had to be accessible to every future generation. My greatest fear was that humanity would forget again, that the lessons we had learned in blood and sacrifice would fade into myth. I didn't want us to ever abandon again, to ever let the arbitrary lines of genetics divide us. They promised, and they kept that promise. They established the Voss Memorial Archive. It became a monumental undertaking. Every document, every last transmission, every personal testimony was meticulously preserved. Everything was made available to anyone who wished to see it, free of charge, forever. The archive wasn't just a dusty collection of data. It became the very foundation of human education across all the colonies. Children grew up learning our real history, not a sanitized, comfortable version. They learned about our mistakes and how we corrected them. They learned about the abandonment of Earth and the long road to rescue. They learned about the division and the difficult, beautiful process of integration. The curriculum was unflinching. It taught our children that humanity was capable of truly terrible things. Eugenics, systemic cruelty, the cold, calculated abandonment of billions. But it also taught them that we were capable of correcting our course. We could admit when we were wrong. We could tear down broken systems and rebuild with honesty and humility. The lesson wasn't we are perfect. The lesson was we can always be better. This perspective fundamentally shaped the new generation. They didn't see genetic modifications as some kind of contamination or impurity. They saw them for what they were: adaptations, our species' creative response to new environments. They didn't view the different colonies as competing factions, vying for resources or prestige. They saw us as one people, a single species distributed across multiple worlds, a garden of diverse but connected life. The alien symbiosis of Proxima wasn't seen as a corruption of the human form, but as the next step in our evolution. This younger generation, born into a world of open archives and shared history, became truly integrated in a way we had only dreamed of. They intermarried without a second thought, crossing old colonial and genetic lines. They had hybrid children who belonged to all worlds, carrying the legacy of Earth, Mars, and the outer colonies within their very DNA. They traveled freely between the colonies, working and living wherever they chose. When you asked them who they were, they wouldn't say, "I'm from Mars," or "I am an Earth-born pure human." They would just say, "I'm human." Nothing more specific was needed. The old divisions had lost their meaning. 50 years after my death, humanity attempted something unprecedented, something that was the culmination of this new, unified spirit. They decided to build a generation ship. Its destination was Tau Ceti, a star 12 light years away. It was a journey that would take 80 years. Most of the original crew would live out their lives on the voyage and never see their destination. But their children and their children's children would. They would arrive. And they would establish the 7th human colony. Shortly before I died, Nora told me what they were planning to name the ship. They were going to call it the Voss, named after me. The thought was humbling. It was almost too much to process. "You're going to the stars," she had said, her voice soft. "Symbolically, at least. The ship will carry your name, and with it, your legacy. Your unshakable belief that humanity must always remember itself." The Voss was a microcosm of our new civilization. It carried 10,000 souls, a mixed population drawn from all 6 colonies. Every genetic variation, every modification, every adaptation was represented. There were pure strain humans from the revived Earth, alongside their genetically modified cousins. There were the Mars-adapted, the Titan-structured, the Venus platform dwellers, and the symbiotic humans from Proxima. All of them, living and working together, building a unified society within the hull of a single ship, heading toward an unknown world. It was perfect. It was everything I had ever hoped humanity could become. Diverse but integrated, mindful of the past, but always reaching for the future, always growing. The final transmission from the Voss, sent just before it passed the threshold where communication would become impossible for decades, was simple. It was broadcast across all the colonies, a message from the future to the present. "We remember," it said. "We are one. We go forward." For all of us. That message is now part of the archive, a testament not to me, but to us, to our ability to fall and to get back up, to our capacity to fracture and our will to become whole again. I die content, knowing that the journey continues, that humanity, in all its flawed and wonderful diversity, is finally, truly on its way to the stars. I'm accessing the archived records now. My name is Dr. Kaelen Voss, a descendant of both Kaelen Voss and Seth Oren. I'm a ninth-generation human, born on the Venus Unity colony. I've spent my life studying my ancestors, and their stories are the foundation of our entire civilization. Kaelen Voss, the one who found the signal that changed everything. He exposed the lies of the Directorate and started our great integration. And Seth Oren, who survived the collapse of Earth itself. He built the very first station, a beacon of hope in the darkness, refusing to let humanity's spirit die. Together, their actions didn't just save people. They fundamentally altered our trajectory, setting us on a new path. Today, I live in the world they fought to create. A world where humanity numbers over 4.2 million souls, thriving across 17 colonies in 4 star systems: Sol, Proxima Centauri, Tau Ceti, and our newest frontier, Epsilon Eridani. We've become a people of incredible diversity, far beyond anything my ancestors could have dreamed of. Genetic modification is so commonplace, so varied, that the concept of a baseline human is now just a historical curiosity. It no longer exists. Every single one of us carries modifications. Everyone is uniquely adapted to their home world, their environment. In a very real sense, everyone is a hybrid. Some of us carry adaptations from old Earth, echoes of our cradle. Others have a deep symbiosis with the life of the Proxima system. And many more carry brand new modifications, developed for worlds our ancestors never even knew existed. We're not a single species anymore, not in the old sense. We are a family of related species, all conscious, all intelligent, and all human in the ways that truly matter. The Directorate? They're a footnote in a history book now, a cautionary tale. No one alive today remembers their ideology firsthand. We teach their story as a warning. It as a stark example of what happens when a society values some imagined genetic purity over the sanctity of consciousness itself. It shows the dark path we walk when we create hierarchies of worth based on biology, when we abandon our own people simply because they're different or inconvenient. Every child learns this history. They learn about the abandoned colonies, left to die in silence. They learn about the decades of lies and the moment of truth when the rescue began. Most importantly, they learn about the choice our ancestors made to remember it all. We call this the remembering. It is our most sacred cultural value. We don't forget, we don't abandon, and we do not divide. This isn't just a philosophy. It's a practical mandate. When we establish new colonies, we maintain contact. Always, we dedicate resources to send ships, to maintain constant communication channels. We ensure that no one is ever forgotten, no matter how far they travel. Is it inefficient? Yes. Is it expensive? Absolutely. But it is necessary, because we learned the hard way that forgetting leads to abandonment. Abandonment leads to division, and division ultimately leads to dehumanization. We have learned that lesson, etched into the very soul of our society. We will not repeat it. And this core principle is being tested in a way we never anticipated. Just recently, we encountered something new, something truly alien. Not just microbes or symbiotic plants, but a technological civilization. We found them on a planet orbiting Epsilon Eridani. They are nothing like us. They aren't humanoid. They aren't even carbon-based life. They are silicon-based, with crystalline structures. Their metabolism is incredibly slow, giving them lifespans that stretch for centuries. They are completely, utterly alien. But they are conscious, they are intelligent, and they are curious. They detected our exploration ships, and they initiated contact. They sent us mathematical sequences, the universal language of logic. We're now in the slow, painstaking process of learning their language as they learn ours. It's incredibly difficult. Our thought processes are structured in fundamentally different ways. Our very perception of time is incompatible. They think in centuries, while we live our lives in mere decades. But we are trying, because that is what humanity does now. We reach across the void of difference. We seek to connect. We refuse to abandon intelligent life, even when it's alien, even when the communication is a monumental challenge. We remember our own history. We remember what happens when we declare others unworthy of connection, unworthy of life. We will not make that mistake with a new species. The future is uncertain, as it always is. Humanity will continue to expand, to diversify, to adapt to new stars and new worlds. We will undoubtedly encounter more aliens, face more challenges, and yes, we will make more mistakes along the way. But we will also remember, we will correct our course. We will strive to improve. That has become our pattern. That is our legacy. It's a legacy that started with Kaelen Voss and Zethor Rain. It was carried forward by leaders like Nora Vesper and Tyr Blackwell. It was extended by Kaelen Orin the Younger. And every single generation since has upheld that promise. We are not a perfect people. We still have conflicts. We still harbor prejudices. We still face our own failures. But we are trying. We are honestly, genuinely trying to be better. And that, right there, is what makes us human. It's not our genetics, not our technology, and not our grand achievements. It's our willingness to look our mistakes in the face and do better. They chose to rescue the forgotten, to integrate despite the costs, and to seek connection over division. Those choices ... they matter more than genetics, more than technology, more than any grand achievement. They are what define us. They are what make us human. They are what make us worth preserving. Maybe it's environmental catastrophes on a scale we never knew. You can choose to be human in the ways that truly matter. And as long as we are connected, we are human. That is Kaelen Voss's legacy. That is humanity's hope.